Fiscal cliff deal. Jim Nussle is a former Republican representative from Iowa and the former director of the Office of Management and Budget, now a Fix the Debt board member, president and COO of Growth Energy, and a long title, a CNBC contributor.
Wow, how do you do all those things, Jim?
Congressman, let's start with you. And good morning or good afternoon, gentlemen. I imagine that you share Mitch McConnell's sentiment here of no more taxes, but would you at least make some concessions if it meant true entitlement reform?
I don't have any reservations about the no new taxes aspect of what needs to be done. Higher taxes hurt the economy. The more you hurt the economy, the less economic activity there is, fewer monies being generated, lower taxes. So the solution to this is to grow the economy on the one hand, or to have very significant spending cuts on the other. I agree with Senator Mitch McConnell. If the President of the United States wants to talk about tax increases, he needs to look it up in history books, because it's not coming during the 113th session of the United States Congress.
How significant, Congressman, are the spending cuts you're talking about? What would it take to get you to raise the debt ceiling?
There are two things that would have to occur, either one of which would cause me to raise the debt ceiling. One is a balanced budget constitutional amendment phased in over a period of time that would force Washington to deal with this issue in a serious way. In the alternative, there would have to be spending cuts, real spending cuts, first year in excess of $100 billion.
$100 billion, okay. Boy, I haven't heard of a constitutional amendment in a long time. Jim Nussle, you called the fiscal cliff deal to this point a fiasco. What are your high expectations for what's to come on the spending and the debt limit that they have to deal with in the next couple of months?
Yeah, I don't have very high expectations
I didn't
yet.
think so.
I think at this point in time, we're seeing history repeat itself, and I think this is probably why Congressman Brooks voted against the deal. Congratulations on being sworn in again today,
Thank
Congressman Brooks. But I think Mo is right. The taxes have been settled. Whether he voted for them or not, taxes are settled. It's now on to entitlement reform and spending. And historically, whether it's in Reagan or Bush or even in Clinton, there were very few opportunities for cutting real spending or reforming entitlements that went along with tax increases. And that's what needs to happen. You've got to drop and bend the growth curve in entitlement spending if you're going to have any chance at all in getting back to any sustainability on the debt. And that's really the challenge that faces Congress and the president at this point.
Jim, you know how this works in Washington, though. At this point, they're all talking past each other. I mean, the president has said he's not going to negotiate on the debt limit. It's got to be raised, period. He is talking about higher taxes, further higher taxes on the wealthy in this country, while at the same time, you have a Mo Brooks who is saying we've got to find a way to cut spending in a meaningful way. I mean, where is the middle ground when they're not even talking in the same room here?
Well, I'll tell you what's missing, and I trust Mo and I trust all the other members of Congress that we elected to get in there and start working. And I'm not blaming Mo in particular, but what's missing is that they're not legislating. They're not putting bills on the floor. They're having these backroom discussions, backroom negotiations that nobody gets to know about. Mo didn't even have hardly an opportunity to read the bill that came before the floor. I mean, that's not a way to run a country, whether you're talking taxes or spending. You've got to have the legislative process work in the light of day so that everybody has an opportunity to amend the bills, put their proposition on the floor, and vote, for goodness sakes. That's what the Congress is supposed to do.
Jim, the trouble is if you have, 12 hours, 90 minutes in some cases, because we've put these clock deadlines on policy, there's not time to follow. If we had started this procedure 3-6 months ago, that we'd have time for all of that, but we're jamming this all down at the last minute.
But you've got 2 months.
You've
got 2 months before sequestration. You've got 2 months before the end of the continuing resolution, which funds the government. You've got at least 2 months before the debt ceiling. So take those 2 months and get to work. Mo wants to get to work.
Well, in 2012, the House of Representatives passed bills that would have addressed sequestration, would have addressed the fiscal cliff months in advance of the deadline. Unfortunately, Harry Reid's Senate decided to sit on their thumbs and do nothing. And hence, they ended up having less than an hour to actually see a bill and vote on it that impacts, according to the Congressional Budget Office, $4 trillion worth of debt load. And now, after the fact, we're discovering all this pork special interest legislation that was in the tax side of the bill. And so So it's dysfunctional when you have that kind of process. We need to have a process where the American people can participate in their republic, where they have an opportunity to read this legislation, they can give feedback to their elected members in the House of Representatives and the United States Senate, and then we can act accordingly. We should never again hit an issue of this magnitude in less than 24 hours from beginning to end.
But Congressman Brooks, very quickly, is there any reason to believe that that's going to happen this time around as you get ready for the negotiations or whatever they're going to be about the debt ceiling?
I am very confident that the House is going to act in a prompt fashion. Now, when it comes to the United States Senate, if history is any guide, no, they're going to wait to the last second. They're going to slow walk it, probably under the principle that the longer they wait, the more they can cram things down our throat that the public would not agree to if the public had the opportunity to see what's in it. Let's be real mindful about what's happening going forward. What we just finished was a fiscal cliff, but what we have coming is a debt mountain. And that debt mountain has the ability to debilitate the United States of America with insolvency and bankruptcy. It has to be stopped at all costs if we're going to have a country that's going to thrive going forward.
All right. Gentlemen, thank you both. Appreciate your time. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I hope. Heading lower here as we head toward the close. The Dow down about 40 points right now, and the S&P and the NASDAQ are at session lows.